We've enjoyed this successful run, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 12 years. How do we know how to allocate these net proceeds? How do we know who gets what? So one way to do it is to give everybody a sharp object, throw them in a room, and let them have at it. You can do that. Don't necessarily advise it. It's bloody, probably criminal. So we'll try to skip that for these purposes. There's a better way, and there's another way to do it. And we looked at something called the capitalization table. In capitalization table, you may have sometimes heard it referred to as a cap table. And you can tell this is owned by lawyers and accountants because that's about as creative as we can get. We shorten capitalization to cap. Your cap table tells you how the net proceeds will be allocated at exit. That's why the cap table is important. It's not there as just another piece of financial information that you as a founder or you as an entrepreneur or you as an owner in the business are forced to keep track of. It feels that way sometimes. It just feels like work, overhead, busy work. It's very important. It's the whole thing. Without an accurate cap table, we don't know how the net proceeds are chopped up. So what's a cap table look like? Well, in its simplest form, and in the early days, a cap table will look something like this. We have our 3 founders, founder A, founder B, founder C. They were destined to work together. A, B, and C. The names just align so beautifully. And we have 2 columns. The first column is shares. Let's put a pin in that. The second column is ownership percentage. When I sit down with a founding team for the first time, founders A, B, and C, we talk about the product, we talk about the tech, we talk about the IP, we talk about the market opportunity, we talk about what they want to create, the legacy they want to build. It can be a minute conversation, it can be a 2-hour conversation. But once we get through the big picture stuff and we're starting to drill down, the first question I will ask is, talk to me about the allocation of ownership. Who owns what? Because these percentages always need to add up to 100%. So the answers sometimes line up, but don't be surprised if they don't. It happens a lot more often than you may think. Founder A says, this was my idea, I quit my job, I'm doing it full time, I'm giving all my energy to this is all about me, I'm driving this, I'm the chief executive officer, I'm all these things. As we've discussed, I own 70% of the company. Founder B says, I get that, you're really important. I'm the tech co-founder, we know how important that is. Or I'm the chief science officer, or I'm the principal investigator, or whatever. I'm behind the IP, I'm behind the technology, I'm behind the product, I'm behind this opportunity. Without me, there's nothing. I may not be doing it full time, but I'm critical. And as we've discussed, I own 40%. Founder C says, really interesting, totally get founder A and founder B and how critical they are, and I'm glad that they're here. That's why I've aligned with them. But I'm the salesperson, I'm the marketing person. I'm the person who's figuring out if this is something more than a science fair project. I'm the one that's out there measuring what's the market look like, who are our potential customers, consumers, clients, patients, whatever. And then how do we sell this? How do we package it? What do the distribution channels look like? How do these things all come together? Without me, there is no business. So as we've discussed, I own 40%. Well, I mean, look, we're all overachievers. That's why you're watching this. We all give 150% all day, every day, and that's fine and well and good as sort of a throwaway existential kind of concept. But I can tell you that Excel spreadsheets don't like this. They choke on it and they'll spit it back. It doesn't work. It has to add up to 100%. It is a zero-sum game. And so my advice, of course, predictably, to founders A, B, and C is to say, you got to go back to your whiteboard and you've got to figure this out. You need to figure out how you're going to get to 100%. So they do. And by the way, these are among the hardest conversations that founding teams often have. And a question that I get a lot is, how do you agree to allocate equity? And of course, the default rule, the logical place to start is to say a third, a third, a third. And a lot of people do that. But I've seen 98-1-1 too. And so the point is, every company is a snowflake, totally different and completely unique. And the founders and the advisors to these startups need to be sensitive to that and mindful of that, and not just slam a default on top of it in an unthinking way without sensitivity. But on the other hand, you've got to have the hard conversations to figure out how you compare these very different contributions. This is not apples to apples to apples, right? This is apples to bicycles to firewood. Completely different. But somehow you've got to figure out how it all lines up and fits into 100%. And let's say in the case here of our startup, our founders did go back to the drawing board and they came back with 60, 30, 10. Cooking with gas, that works.